Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. Welcome to a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning, coming to you from the International Diamond Center Studios, locations across the state of Florida, right there in Celebration Point. Go check out the good folks at International Diamond Center. Today's show, we'll have Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News. And then we'll have Pizza Bill Feinberg, who kind of has something he wants to get off his chest about the 80-45 and the 90 football teams. But he's kind of the guy that kind of is the glue that holds all the former players together. Let's go straight to the Tight No More hotline. We're joined by Mike Ridaught, who does a tremendous job covering high school athletes here on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. Good morning, Mike. How you doing, bud?
Hey, Shane. Good morning. Busy time of year with softball, baseball, the track and field state championships are this week in Jacksonville at the University of North Florida. Just a busy time, fun time, but super busy time.
Yeah, let's go with high school baseball in the North Central Florida area. Teams are battling it out to go to the Final Four. Let's start first with Buchholz, the bigger school. They have to travel quite a ways to play Pace this week. Give me your thoughts on the Bobcats.
Buchholz won their fourth straight district championship. Chris Malfers, who was an assistant coach last year, is now the head coach as Ron Brooks stepped down last year at the end of last year. Last year's team won a state best 33 games, Shane, played in their second straight state championship game. They've lost the last 2 years in the 6A title game. And now here they are just, 2 wins away. It's a best of 3 series. The opening round of the playoffs this year was only a single game. Buchholz took care of business, beat Jacksonville Mandarin 12-2 in the first round, beat Oakley, swept them last weekend, and now they go to Pace. But that's not only the top 2 seeds in that region, 6A Region 1, but Pace is number 1 overall. Buchholz is number 3 overall in 6A. So you could say that's the de facto state championship game, although St. Thomas Aquinas is still alive in their region, Region 4. So certainly a tough trip. I think the one thing that does give Buchholz a chance is the fact that they have such a deep pitching staff. They've got a couple of guys that are going to Jacksonville University, Aiden Castensmith leading the team on the mound. I think that's the one thing that will give them a chance in a best of 3 series. But Pace, it's a tough place to play. It's a feisty crowd. I think they had about 5,000 people there last year when Buchholz went on the road and did beat them. But a little different situation last year because, the first 2 games were played at the higher seed, and then that game 3 was played at the other school. This year, all 3 games are being played at the higher seed. So it will be tough for Buchholz to win on the road, but certainly a winnable series for Buchholz.
What about the other teams battling it out to go play for a state title in this area?
We could have an all-area final. Teams in the Main Street Daily News coverage area. Trenton is playing Williston. Now Williston, give them credit. They made the long trip all the way down to Marathon, which is, I think, about an hour from the Florida Keys. Williston swept Marathon on the road, but Trenton swept Dixie County at home rather easily. A couple of run rule games. They outscored Dixie County 27-2. So Trenton will host Williston this coming Friday. In fact, I'll broadcast all 3 games if it comes to it this weekend at MainStreetDailyNews.com for the right to go to the Final Four. Then in Region 3, that's in Region 4. In Region 3, Union County is hosting Lafayette out of Mayo County. Union County is the top overall seed. Trenton is the number 2 overall seed. They're both ones in their respective regions. That means that if Union County and Trenton were to win this weekend, that they would possibly play against each other for the state championship. So It would be nice to see an all-area state championship game. That's in the rural classification. St. Francis Catholic was eliminated last week. They actually had the best overall record in Gainesville this past year. They got beat by Mount Dora Christian on the road in Class 1A. And then also Suwannee was a winner as they went on the road and beat Fernandina Beach. They actually played game 3 on Sunday. We know the weather kind of pushed things back for a lot of schools, but Suwannee got the win 5-1 on Sunday. So they will play over in at South Walton. That's in Class 3A. So still a few area teams in our coverage area that are still alive. But, Buchholz trying to get to its 3rd straight Final Four, and then Trenton also trying to get to its 3rd straight Final Four. It's funny because, the Trenton and Buchholz we talk about in baseball, kind of similar to what we talk about in football with Buchholz and Hawthorne.
Exactly. Conyer Ron on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, Mike, is there another Wyatt Langford type on Trenton's team?
No. I mean, that's a once-in-a-generation type of player, really, if you think about it, especially for a small school like that. Now, obviously, Buchholz, I mentioned, they've got some players. When you look at, I mentioned Caston Smith, they got to get another pitcher by the name of Dion Wilburn. Both those guys are going to JU. Reed Thomas is going to Florida Gulf Coast University. Blake Brewer actually is going to Stetson University. Even those guys are not in that same, I don't think are in that same mold. So you're talking about a top 5 player in the Major League Baseball draft. Those don't come around that often.
Yeah. So, I mean, you broadcast a lot of games in this area. You got a lot of kids going to JUCO, the Stetsons, the JUs of the world. Anybody that you've covered in this area going like Power 4, big time college baseball?
Yeah, and it's a shame too that they missed the postseason, and they missed it because they're in a super tough, or we're in a super tough region. Newberry is in
That's right.
2A Region 1. Tavis Honeycutt, who is a University of Florida commit, actually at one point led the country in home runs. He has, he finished with 16 home runs. So they were on the outside looking in. The top 8 teams get in, but it's the 4 district champions and then the 4 highest seeds. The only problem with that, Shane, is that you've got Trinity Christian out of Jacksonville, Bishop Snyder, they're playing head-to-head again, Trinity Catholic out of Ocala, Bowles, Panama City, Bozeman, Providence, Pensacola Catholic. It's just a super tough region, and unfortunately, Newberry did not get into the postseason, but Honeycutt with 16 home runs. I know that the kid from Bishop Snyder, I believe he plays for had 11 home runs this year, which is actually tied for 2nd in Florida with Ray Lopez out of Miami Westminster Christian, but Honeycutt is above. Yeah, there's a kid from, you might know this pronunciation better than me, Senatobia, Mississippi. He's out of Magnolia Heights in Mississippi. He actually leads the country with 17, but his season's done. So he finishes one above Tavis, who had 16 home runs this year. And the good thing about that, Shane, is Tavis was a junior. He will be back next year. I think if Newberry can bolster their schedule a little bit, they've got a chance to get in. But that was just a super tough region to come through, to get out of. And unfortunately, Newberry, despite a really good record, did not get into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, he's a big fella too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He passes the eye test for sure.
Yeah. The Pouncey twins, Mike and Marquise, invite you to try the mango martinis at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, handcrafted with their J.F. Hayden liqueurs. Try those flavors or find your favorite at shopjfhaydens.com. We got Mike Ridaught, who does a tremendous job covering high school sports from Main Street Daily News and the prepzone.com on the Titan MR hotline. Mike, let's switch over to softball. Now, there are some studs in this area in softball. Talk a little bit about the teams first and then those individual players.
Okay. In our area, a total of 12 teams, area teams, made the postseason. Probably the biggest shout out needs to go to Bronson. I wouldn't call them a doormat, but it's a team that you would think would not make the postseason when you think of Bronson softball. They are in the their first playoff since 2003. So it's been over 2 decades since they made the postseason. Also, a huge shout out to Buchholz. They're in the playoffs for the first time in 12 years. They have to make the long trip to Navarre. There's a chance that their game could get moved from Thursday to Wednesday because of expected rain over in that area. Gainesville's back in the postseason. They will be at home against Deltona, who they just beat last week for the district championship, and they had to rally to win that one. Columbia has had a really good year. Santa Fe has had a really good year. They are both #1 seeds in their respective classifications and regions. Newberry won a district championship, their second straight last week. They will play Cornerstone Charter Academy, who they lost to in the first round of the playoffs last year. Keystone Heights got in as an at-large. And then in the rural classification, Trenton is going for its 3rd straight state title. They will host Bronson. Branford, which has been to 3 straight state semifinals and also a couple of state championship games, they are hosting Union County. So that rural division should be pretty good. I like Trenton to get there. They would have to beat Bronson and either Fort Meade or Williston to get back to the Final Four. Branford is in a different region, so they wouldn't see them possibly until the Final Four. Trenton, you talked about the players in the area that were really good. I'll talk about them now because we're really blessed to have the types of players that we have. Let's start with Addison Allaire from Trenton High School. She is only a junior. She's a University of Florida commit. She's 14-3 this year with a .93 ERA. Don't adjust your dial here, Shane. In 112 innings pitched, she's only walked 19, and she has struck out 243 batters. She's really good, and she's a good hitter too. She's one of the leaders offensively on this team. She's batting .483, driven in 23 runs this year, and as I mentioned, only a junior. There's a big reason why the Gators wanted Addison. Addie is having another phenomenal year. Over at Gainesville High School, shout out to Leanna Bordage, who I thought had a chance to go play for the Gators. It kind of came down to Addie or Leanna. Leanna was injured last year, still managed to come back. Because of her injury, she switched sides of the plate so that she could still continue hitting despite her injury. But this year, she's back out in the circle again. A .75 ERA in 102 innings. She's walked 44, but struck out 199. And she also is among the leaders offensively. She's batting .345, which is second on the team. She is a Texas A&M commit. She also is only a junior. And those two teams went head-to-head this year, Trenton and Gainesville, and they split that 2-game series. The other player, it's possible that Riley Swilley of Santa Fe High School could be better than those two. She is ranked by one publication as the #1 freshman pitcher in the country and the #2 freshman overall in the country. Santa Fe's having a really good year this year. They are 22-3. And let me just give you some of her numbers. She's got a .81 ERA in 95 innings pitched. She's walked 17, struck out 107. Walked 17, struck out 117. Again, keep in mind she's only a freshman, and offensively, really good. She is batting .458, and she leads the team, Shane, with 9 home runs. She is the complete package for Santa Fe.
Is she not committed to the Gators yet?
Right. She's definitely going to be getting a lot of looks, travel ball when that gets going again. Who knows? I'm sure the offers will start pouring in if they haven't already. But she's a phenomenal player. I've seen her play a couple of times this year, and she's legit. She's the real deal. So, again, we're blessed to have such good players in this area. I know you mentioned Wyatt Langford earlier. It just seems like year after year, we have such good athletes in the Gainesville and surrounding area and some really good teams. You go back to basketball, the Williston girls basketball team won their first state championship in program history. Williston boys were state runners up this year. I think 3rd time in the last 4 years they've been to the state championship game. And then, I mentioned football with Buchholz and Hawthorne and what they've been able to do. Hawthorne football has been to 6 straight state championship games. Buchholz has been to 5 straight state semifinal games in football. Again, really blessed to have the good players and teams in this area.
Mike, how many years have you been covering high school sports in this area?
For the Gainesville area, I would say I moved to Gainesville in 1999. So what, 25, 20, going on 26
Well,
years.
yeah,
Go
the
ahead.
reason I was asking is because, it's amazing to me how popular softball has become. And I think it really
Hmm.
started, when the SEC put a lot of money into it. The SEC network started televising so many women's softball games. I just felt like that sport to me, it's amazing. Like how many little girls used to want to play softball 35 years ago, right?
Yeah,
Because it was mostly
right.
those West Coast teams, the Arizonas and the UCLAs, but now in the Southeast, man, it is crazy how much that sport has grown, and
Oh yeah.
it's one of my favorite sports. It's
Yeah, I love it too. And even thinking further back when you consider what it's kind of evolved, because I mean, now you have to go way back, but remember, it started out when it was a sanctioned sport as a slow pitch game.
right, no doubt.
That's going
We got a
back
couple,
to, I think, the 80s, late 80s, I believe.
yeah, a couple questions on Facebook Live. Brought to you by Mellon Law from John. He says, Mike, we know Trenton is a heavy favorite in rural softball. Who can challenge them? Northview or Liberty County?
Um, Honestly, with Addie in the circle, if she's on her game, I don't think anybody's going to beat them. I mean, they once again, as a team, they're batting 322 this year. I mentioned her numbers. I think Trenton, to be honest with you, is the only team that can beat Trenton. I think that if they play their game, they've been there, they know what it takes. They've won two in a row. I don't see anybody knocking them off this year. If you look at their schedule this year, Shane, they've lost 3 games this season, but one of those games was to Gainesville on the road in extra innings. Another game was at Columbia, a 1-run game. Columbia just went on the road and beat Baker County. And then the other loss was a 1-run loss to Santa Fe, and they split that series. So their 3 losses have been by 1 run against a couple of other teams that I think will be in the Final Four this year. So honestly, Trenton, I could see them losing if they beat themselves. I don't think, yes, Northview is a number 1. Yes, Liberty County is a number 1 in their respective regions. But Trenton, with that experience, with Addie in the circle, they're just tough to beat, Shane.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's talk spring football real quickly. A lot of teams here in the next couple of weeks will have their jamborees or spring games or what have you. Um,
Yeah.
would you say last year, obviously, with Hawthorne and Buchholz making their runs, but I thought the best story in the area was at Santa Fe with Ernest Graham, what he did with that football program.
Oh yeah, he certainly has turned their program around. Santa Fe certainly one of the surprises last year because everybody talks about Hawthorne and Buchholz and rightfully so in the run that they have made. But I think Santa Fe would be one story because of the job that Ernest did last year. But another one too is Newberry because Newberry was able to have a pretty good year as well. That was coming off of a region final. But no question, Santa Fe, something for them to build on, getting to the postseason. Obviously, Bradford has had a lot of success. They got to the region final this past year. But, and Eastside, let's not forget Eastside,
Yeah.
another district championship for Gator. So, there's some pretty good teams in the area. But, yeah, I think Santa Fe, with Ernest Graham, the job that he did, turning that program around and, again, something to build on, I think they will be improved. And, we'll see that their schedule wasn't really tough last year. I'd like to see them play a little tougher schedule now that they do have a little momentum. But there's no question the job that Ernest did, deserves a spotlight.
George on the Titan Mar text line has a question for you, Mike. He goes, what was the deal with Cornelius Ingram last year? Resigned. There was rumors that he wanted the Bradford job, but now he's back at Hawthorne.
So all I know are rumors.
Right.
I heard, again, I hate to say rumors, but I'm just telling you what I heard, was that he was offered the Bradford job, but wanted to bring his quarterback with him. Could be a rumor, and Bradford has their own quarterback. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I also part of me feels like I never really left, even though he stepped down at Hawthorne. Almost within a couple of days, there was a Facebook post about, raising money to keep him at Hawthorne. Their facilities are horrible there at Hawthorne. And I think it could have been just a smokescreen to try and build that program up a little bit, have people invest some money into the program, because he loves Hawthorne.
Yeah.
He loves Hawthorne. It would have to be the right situation for him to leave. But he's become a legacy over there in Hawthorne. Now, especially after he has stepped down, girls basketball last year, the year before, to focus 100% on football. That's a program, as I mentioned, has been to 6 straight state championship games. And they had a sophomore quarterback this year, Shane, that was really good. And if, with Roundtree coming back, and again, haven't been able to get out and cover spring football because I've been so busy with baseball and softball, but just based on the numbers, if Roundtree is back, and I don't know what they've got around him, but this past year, he had a sensational sophomore year, threw for almost 2,600 yards this year, 30 touchdowns. So that was during a sophomore season. So think about Hawthorne and CI, they know how to win over there. And the thing that will be different, though, they're moving up. Remember, there's no rule classification. So let's see how they do in their new classification, Class 1A. That will be interesting. There's going to be a lot of interesting storylines. You've got Robbie Pruitt, who is the first high school football coach in the country to win 200 games in 2 different states, in Florida and Georgia. He's now the head coach. He's back at Union County, where he won 3 straight state championships. Andrew Thomas, who was at Union County, is now over at Dixie County. So there's going to be some interesting storylines during the upcoming high school football season. Should be another fun year in Gainesville.
No doubt. Real quick, Andy's question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. He says, Mike, now that the high school sports season's winding down, who do you think was the best high school athlete in the area? He puts his question is it Justin Williams? I didn't get to see a lot of games in other sports, but
yeah,
he's a freak athlete, and now he's playing for the Gators.
He is. Yeah. He certainly on the football field, he is. Whether or not, you've got maybe a track guy that is pretty talented, but I mean, Justin Williams is a special player. It was a lot of fun covering him, and I can't wait to see him wearing the orange and blue. But yeah, he would have to certainly be pretty high, pretty near the top. We just mentioned a bunch of softball and baseball players that are pretty good. So it really comes down to the respective sport. But if you had to look back over the course of the 25, 26 year, I would think Justin Williams, might be considered. He was certainly the fall player of the year. He might be the overall player of the year.
Yeah. All right. And then Alan says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, it's so cool to hear about all these local high school teams. How do we hear more from Mike? Mike, let them know how they can follow you on Twitter and all your different media outlets.
Well, the good thing about our website, mainstreetdailynews.com, is we have no paywall. So you can read all of our stuff for free. And I cover mostly high school sports, especially now that Pat Dooley has come over and he is now working for Main Street. So you can check out what Pat has a weekly column. Mike Dame, who used to work for the Orlando Sentinel, is now putting together a Gator newsletter and working with Pat. So that's something that you'll see on a weekly basis. Again, that's free as well at mainstreetdailynews.com. I'll have an article up today about the Oak-Hall track and field teams. The girls won the region title. The boys finished state runner-up. They will participate in the state championship tomorrow at UNF. And then my article yesterday was about Bronson and Buchholz softball in the postseason, first time over a decade, 2 decades for Bronson. So again, that's a good thing about it, is that there's no paywall. You can read all of our stuff for free. And then on top of that, we also broadcast at least 2 games per week as well. You can listen to those for free at mainstreetdailynews.com. And as I mentioned earlier, I will be broadcasting that Williston at Trenton baseball best of 3 series. So if it's 3 games, I'll call all 3 games Friday and Saturday, 7 o'clock on Friday night, 1 o'clock on Saturday. And then if there is a third game, it would be 30 minutes at the conclusion of that game 2 on Saturday. And again, you can listen to those at mainstreetdailynews.com.
We got a text here from Colin on the Titan More text line. He wants to know, Mike, do you know if South Marion, the new high school opening up, will play football this fall?
Yes, I think they just hired a new coach. They hired a guy, and he left the same day that he took the job. And I think they've had, if I read it correctly, it's a guy that won a state championship up in Michigan. So they will be playing football this fall. And I understand that they do have a coach in place now.
Oh, okay. It's going to be tough with a brand new school opening up.
Yeah.
But in today's world, you can go wherever you want as long as you have transportation.
That's true. That's right. Yes.
Mike, great stuff as always. We appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right, Shane. Thanks for the time. Have a great day.
Yeah, that's Mike Ridaught. Does a tremendous job covering these high school kids. Real quick, where is it right here? Conyer Ron says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, need to invest in Gainesville facilities, upgrade the football facilities where all the high schools play. That ain't never happening, Conyer Ron. It's probably the worst in the state of Florida, maybe in the country, when it comes to high school facilities in Alachua County. It's a shame. We're going to take a quick timeout, come back. We're going to be joined by Pizza Bill Feinberg, a guy who's been around the Gator football program for many, many years. And he's going to give his thoughts on the 84, 85, and the 90 teams, trying to get the SEC to approve those guys as champs. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. We'll be right back.
Naysayers, setbacks, injuries. Life throws a lot of hurdles your way. The key is just keep jumping them.
Sponsors are Atlantic Roofing, Campus USA Credit Union, International Diamond Center, J.F. Hayden's Craft Liqueurs, Los Landeros Tequila, Meldon Law, Titan MRI and Imaging, Castaway Sauce, UF Health Orthopedics, Michael Schneider PLLC, Florida Legends Gala and Experience, Money Metals, Sensei Asian Bistro. Our gridiron sponsors are Baker Sports, Florida Cracker Oyster, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, McDonald's of Gainesville, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, International Gold and Diamond, Advocare, and MGA&A Wealth. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook or YouTube. Listen to podcasts wherever, on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And to advertise, be sure to call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Recent price spikes in groceries, healthcare, gasoline, steel, and lumber tell the story of inflation. As the reality of all this inflation sinks in, investors will be acting quickly to diversify and protect themselves, their families, and their assets. Low transaction costs are one reason Investopedia calls Money Metals the best dealer in America. Don't waste any more time. Start protecting your savings today with physical precious metals at moneymetals.com/go.
The jewelry store with the most likes, the most positive reviews, the most raving fans is International Diamond Center.
IDC is definitely a place that I will come to as long as I live here. This will be my go-to place always.
Literally the best jewelry store in town. You'll make friends for life coming in here. I felt like family from the beginning. The value was extraordinary.
I've got a beautiful diamond on my finger, and I'm very proud of it.
International Diamond Center.
I'm very happy to show it off.
At Celebration Point and online at shopidc.com.
Gainesville's best-kept secret is finally being revealed. Introducing Sensei Asian Bistro. Located in Celebration Point next to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, Sensei delivers a one-of-a-kind Japanese-French fusion experience that's as refined as it is unforgettable. Indulge in signature dishes like our smoked New York strip, Chilean sea bass, matcha curry, or the crave-worthy Chunggang chili chicken. Pair it all with handcrafted cocktails, fresh crudo oysters, or our premium A5 Wagyu tataki. Sensei Asian Bistro. Make your reservation today.
Welcome back to the International Diamond Center Studios. UF grad Michael Schneider, a real estate attorney, can help you save thousands of dollars in real estate commissions by helping you sell your home or land by owner without a broker. Michael Schneider, PLLC, serves the entire state of Florida. Contact Michael at maschneiderplc.com. Back to the Titan Tomorrow hotline. It's our man, Pizza Bill Feinberg. Pizza's been around the Gator football program for many decades. He is the liaison to about every player that's ever played football for the Gators. Good morning, Pizza. How you doing, my man?
Great, Shane. Great to be here with you this morning. Got me up early today.
That's right. Pizza, first of all, before we jump into, because I know you're big on trying to reinstate the 80-45 and the 90 teams, kind of tell people, I mean, you were really close to John Reeves here. You were like a student manager. You hung around the program for a long time, but talk about how you are the guy that if somebody needs to get a hold of some player that played in the 60s, you have their information. How did that all start?
Well, just started when I was a 13-year-old out at Florida back in 12-year-old in 1969. Started with the 9-1-1 team and grew up about a mile from campus. My dad worked at the university as registrar's office, and after coming back from Westwood Junior High School every day, I'd ride by the practice field and start shagging balls for the kickers. And John and Carlos would stay out late after practice and catch balls. There was no lights on the practice field back then, so I was kind of the crash test dummy. John would put me about 15 yards out on the sideline, and he'd hum the ball to me, and I learned to catch the ball from him and from Carlos. They kind of took me under their wing real early as a kid. So I started hanging out in the equipment room with Sarge Bannister, started working on helmets and shoes and shoulder pads, and kind of overstayed my welcome by about 15 years. So I was there from 1969 to 1984 in some capacity as either a student manager, an assistant in some form or fashion, never on the payroll, but on full scholarship when I was in school at Florida. So I thank Coach Dickey for that every time I see him. He helped put me through school. So that was a very nice thing, but enjoyed being around the program, enjoyed being around the older guys. It made me grow up and mature very quickly, being around guys that were 5, 6, 7 years older than me.
And so you've been still involved with the program to this day. Tell everybody, you know, you were around when the 84-85 team was here. You've been reading all the reports on all the infractions, what you're trying to do and what you would love to see, and it should happen with the SEC and the school to be able to put that 84, 85, and 90 championships on the walls.
Well, we've been working at it for about 42 years here now. Florida won the undisputed, finished atop the standings in 1984 and finished with the best conference record both years, 5-0-1 in 84 and 5-1 in 85. And we were on top of the conference both of those years. If the athletic department is going to spend $400 million to redo the stadium, the least they can do is spend a couple of dollars with the sign company and get 6 numbers and put them up on the wall in the west stands that say 84, 85, and 90. Those 3 teams, which was your freshman year, I believe, finished with the best record at 6-1, and Coach Spurrier's first team paid the price for the sins of the 88, 89 teams that went back on probation. So the goal is to get all three of those teams the recognition they deserve. I think that it's played a big part in a lot of the problems that Florida's had over the last 40 years as far as just keeping their athletes in the family, as we say, keeping guys involved and getting them back on a regular basis, attending games, being part of the program. You've got a lot of guys that are disenfranchised and don't come around anymore just because of those two teams, actually those three teams that haven't gotten the respect and love that the other SEC championship teams and national championship teams have gotten over the years.
What do you think is holding it back? The university and the SEC, what's holding them back? I mean,
I think it's the politics. I think it was the times, and I think a lot of it has to do with the athletic department not wanting to rock the boat with the SEC and not being able to move it up the top of their priority list. I think it's very important. Kentucky in '77 finished 6-0, and they recognized their championship. Alabama in 2002 finished first in the West, but they were ineligible due to NCAA sanctions. They recognized the 2002 SEC championship. I mean, Auburn in '93 went 11-0. They were on probation. Auburn recognized, as a matter of fact, Alabama and Auburn recognized all their championships that were won on the field. Florida does not, and it's three very important years, especially the '84 team, which won it for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what all the sanctions were, Pizza, for the '84, '85 teams. I want to say the '90 team, it was some $300 child support payment that happened.
It was with Jarvis Williams, and it was less than $300.
But it was way before Coach Spurrier and his staff and players had nothing to do with it. Regardless of having said all that, we're paying guys a roster of $25 million now. They reinstated Reggie Bush, who took money, and they gave him back his Heisman.
Correct.
This is a no-brainer, in my opinion. As you stated, there's been multiple SEC schools that have they're honoring those championship teams if they had sanctions. It's ridiculous, in my opinion.
I think the university has got to step up when they do this renovation and kind of renovate that sign in the west wall of the stadium there.
And the indoor facility as well. And again, I was on one of these teams, so people may say you're only arguing this point because I'm more concerned about the '84, '85.
Well, I can understand that, but the '90 team deserves its due too because they did nothing wrong. And the '84 and '85 teams did nothing wrong. It was the adults in the room that were circumventing some of the rules back then, which were ridiculous back then that today you'd laugh at. I was just reading the 68-page official inquiry. I have a copy of that. And it was over things like tickets to the Tangerine Bowl. It was over $20, gas money for a kid coming up to visit. It was another, ridiculous thing. One of the coaches went and visited a kid because as a junior in high school, which was illegal back then. I mean, now you're recruiting them out of the womb, and it's absolutely insane, these charges. And Scott Strickland and the University of Florida Athletic Association needs to step up, and they need to do the right thing. You've got 53 former players, coaches, and staff members off of the '80s group that have passed away, never to see where they could show their grandchildren or their great-grandchildren the fact that they were on those SEC championship teams. The '84 team has a ring. The '85 team has nothing. And I believe the '90 team got a ring. I think Coach Spurrier stepped up and got you guys rings in '90. But it's one of those pride things, and the university should take full advantage, and other schools do it. And I just don't understand why the athletic department of the University of Florida has waited 42 years now. We had a beautiful reunion here 2 years ago for the Kentucky game. and the Association of Black Alumni, Cam Henson and her group, put together a beautiful tailgate over on the Rights Union lawn, and they put together these beautiful pins for us and all kinds. It was just a beautiful weekend, and that was the first time in 40 years that many of the players on that 84 and 85 team had come back to the University of Florida and participated. There's a lot of bad blood with the former players, and that leads to you got guys who are multimillionaires. You got guys who are in positions that could donate to the university that don't, because they hold that grudge that they were not treated correctly back in those situations. The University of Florida and the Athletic Association need to go to bat to the SEC, be it Greg Sankey, be it the powers that be with the presidents of the SEC, and they need to get these championships reinstated at all costs. I mean, if you're going to spend $400 million to renovate a stadium, you could spend a couple of $1,000s with some lawyers and get these things done. Trust me, they waste plenty of money over there on frivolous things that have nothing to do with championships. These guys were disrespected. They had nothing to do with the actual charges. I remember speaking to the NCAA, and they asked me about a T-shirt and a pair of shorts I gave to somebody. Probably total value less than $20. And yes, I did it. I'm guilty. Please put me in NCAA jail. But it's one of those things that just it sticks in my craw. And at 69 years old, I think before I leave this earth, if I were to step back into the stadium and see those three numbers up on there on the west wall, it would definitely do my heart good. And I think it would be a positive situation for the guys that are no longer here, like Greg Cleveland and Mark Korf, and some of the guys that have died over the years. Dwight Hoss Adams, who was a defensive coach, who's no longer with us. And, you got guys like Bill Carr, who was the athletic director. And I blame Marshall Kreiser, if anybody. He was, front and center with the trophy on the front page of the paper there, holding up the SEC and the New York Times National Championship trophy. Now they're nowhere to be found. They're in a dusty room in the storeroom in the stadium. They won't bring them out. They won't exhibit them. They won't even admit that they are around. They are around. They just refuse to bring them out. They need to be dusted off, and they need their righteous place in the Hebner Center alongside the three national championship trophies. Since it was the first New York Times, we finished fourth, I think it was, third in the AP, seventh in the UPI, and number one in the New York Times computer poll. And they gave us a beautiful trophy, and God knows which storeroom it's in. But when they revamp the stadium, I'm afraid when they tear things out, a lot of that history will be lost, because a lot of the people that work here currently weren't here in 1984 and don't know where all the bodies and all the trophies are buried.
Yeah.
It's a sad situation, because you got guys that came in here, guys like Kerwin Bell, who never really got their due. I mean, you and him have a very similar background, the way you came up from the bottom to the top. And, guys like Neil Anderson, Lorenzo Hampton, John L. Williams, guys like that who just don't come around. You don't see them. They're not at the barbecues. They're not at the events. Nope. Crawford Kerr did well with Kerr's Winghouse. He's donated, and he's done great things for the university. Doesn't get his due. Phil Bromley up at Michigan, who's the video coordinator. I don't think Phil's been back since he left school. The Great Wall with Lomas Brown deserves to be not only in the NFL Hall of Fame, but the Ring of Honor here at the University of Florida. Billy Henson, done wonderful things. Tim Newton, a nose guard here that was all world. Guys like it was just a tremendous Alonzo Johnson, who's deceased, who was all-world linebacker. I mean, Adrian White, who won the game for us at Kentucky with the pick at the last minute and a half, 2 minutes there. I mean, there's all kinds of guys out there. And the 90 guys, guys like you and guys like, there's just so many guys that, Eric Rett and the guys in the early 90s that Timmy Park, who's no longer with us. And you've got a big group of guys that are no longer around also, that have kind of gone their own way and unfortunately are no longer with us. But the guys that are here, the Clifford Charltons and the Ray Criswells and the Gerald Dickenses, the Dale Dorman, these guys like that who deserve to be recognized. They that whole decade from 1979 when Coach Pell came in to 1990 when Coach Spurrier came in is basically a lost decade in Florida football. There's very little talk about it. There's no records really. There's no banners flying anywhere. You see a lot of the All-Americans that were there, but you don't see the team recognized. And I think the team and the players that were there, it was probably, I would say, with the 2001 team, the 69, 9, 1-1, some of your teams, 96, of course, is a special team to me. And the 06 and 08 teams of Coach Meyer, those teams need to be celebrated on a regular basis. I mean, when I go to the stadium when they light it up at night sometimes, not even all the lights in the world, it's national championship work. So, I mean, those are the kind of things you take pride in, and those are the things that the university should have the attention to detail to make sure all of these teams are recognized and appreciated over the years. As you know, most of these guys now are in their late 60s, and to see as many of them come back as we did 2 years ago was a great thing. But it needs to be finalized, and it needs to be brought to the forefront that these guys did something special for the first time in Florida football history, that they won it on the field. There was no doubt about it. There was no issues with anything. And the players have paid the price for 42 years for something that they had little or no effect and would be perfectly legal today. I mean, the things going on today, you're going to end up with $100 million salary cap probably in 2 or 3 years with Florida football. I think we're going to end up having to have, I don't know if we're going to be a university football team anymore. We're going to be NFL light. And I just think in lieu of all these situations, the way the game has changed, I think the university needs to rethink their issues with the 84, 85, and 90 teams.
Agree. Florida Cracker Oyster Bar and Grill is the ultimate spot for seafood and more. No matter the occasion, they're ready to welcome you Florida Cracker style. Check them out in Keystone Heights. Pizza, we got a text here on the Titan More text line from James. He says, the university reinstated Vernon Maxwell. Why would they not do these football teams?
Well, that's a good question. I was kind of responsible for getting Vernon reinstated, kind of started that. I'm a rabble rouser, Shane, as you well know. And these are the kind of things. I helped recruit Vernon out of Buchholz High School with Wayne Fields. We had a company called Music Express, and we broadcast all of Buchholz's games back when Vernon was playing. So we became good friends, and was working with Coach Sloan to get him to Gainesville over to the university. And I always thought that what Vernon did was, as a basketball player, was phenomenal. And we worked through Bill Koss and Dan Cross and Rick Clarkson. They were kind of my proxies. I'm not well loved over at the UAA, and I had to get some people to kind of do some work for me, and they were able to convince him. I put together a convincing argument, and these guys were able to pull it off. So props to Bill Koss and Rick Clarkson and Dan Cross and the fellas with Gator basketball for getting that done. And those are the kind of things that can be done if a good effort and concerted effort with people working together can get done. And I'm hoping that the 84 guys will get off their butts and start writing letters. And I'm hoping the fans will get involved, the long-term Gator fans who really give a damn about the program, because the program is basically incomplete with these three teams not recognized inside the practice facility. The history that has been lost with these players. You got probably an NFL Hall of Famer in Lomas Brown that's not in the circle of the honor.
Ring of Honor. It's ridiculous.
Ring of Honor in the stadium, yes. Some other guys like Wilbur Marshall, who had a terrific career in the NFL. Guys like that. These 80s guys have been just whitewashed, erased, edited out, whatever you want to call it. They have not gotten any type of love. And I don't blame Scott Strickland. He was 14 years old in 1984. He doesn't know any better. He came here from Mississippi State. He's a Mississippi State Bulldog. And if you don't understand the history, I'm hoping Coach Summerall understands the history. how important it is, especially to the fans and the ex-players, because the first thing he said when he was hired is, "I want the former players back." And the first thing out of my mouth when I was watching that, well, you'll get everybody back, but most of the 80s guys, because they have been wronged, and they're not going to come back until they show some type of reciprocity for these guys winning these 2 championships on the field.
I agree with that. There's, obviously I wasn't around then, but got to know some of those guys. And
well, you were 14 or 15 too, right then, right?
Right. But they got a bad taste in their mouth.
Absolutely. I know you talk with a lot of them. You see them. They'll come back for a barbecue. They'll come back for a game every once in a while. But these guys, when you talk to them off the record, they feel the university. They went out and won the war for the University of Florida, but they played every game. Wasn't for themselves. They played for the University of Florida, for the Gators. They won the games for all those fans in the stands, and they really have suffered. I can tell you, I'm not one to believe in a lot of what these guys have all this issues with, the mindset and stuff. But it has really mentally affected a lot of these former players. And when you talk to them, they really have a very, very high level of just upset about the whole situation. It really riles them up. And to think that they've been disrespected like that for 42 years. So I'm hoping that the UAA and the athletic director and Greg Sankey and the presidents at the SEC will reinstate these 3 SEC championships so we can proudly display them on all our buildings and all our media. And the trophies should be brought out of the closets and displayed where the fans can see them, because I don't think the fans ever got a chance to really celebrate those championships other than that day in the stadium when we flew back from Kentucky. I mean, the guy dipped the plane over the stadium, and you looked out the window and you saw all those fans there, and it was incredible. And for someone like my father, who was in school here in the 40s, and the saying was always wait till next year. Well, 1984, next year came. So it was quite the response, and I could still remember the people flooding the streets and how excited it was to come back from Lexington with that victory.
Yeah. Pizza, good stuff as always. Time went by way too fast. Appreciate your time, and we'll keep plugging away, and hopefully they'll get this thing, these teams recognized.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and if we can get the fans behind this, Shane, I think with the renovations coming to the stadium, it would be a shame if Scott Strickland spent $400 million on the swamp and not include those 6 numbers. And maybe we need to start a GoFundMe page. If the UAA can't afford those numbers from the sign company, we can probably raise the $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 to put that up there on the wall. Maybe that's I don't know if you saw the meme I did with Galen Hall with the Michael Jackson album cover on Facebook, but we need to go back on the wall.
There you go. It's a good stuff. Have a
You
good
too,
week,
man. Thank you.
That's Bill Feinberg. Join us on Tight Number Hotline. Atlantic Roofing, your roofing experts for residential commercial roofing with more than 50 years of local experience. Again, thanks to Pizza Bill and Mike Ridaught talking a little high school sports. Have a great day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.